Donald Trump has used a speech at CPAC on the weekend to claim that Joe Biden is leading the US into oblivion and has once again claimed that he can end the war between Russia and Ukraine. Joining me live is former White House Chief of Staff and consultant at Bondi Partners, Mick Mulvaney. Great to see you. First of all, this was quite a dark speech from Donald Trump. How's it gone down?
It was, even by his own sort of measure, it was fairly dark. He had the comments about World War III, then went on to talk about how voting for him would essentially bring retribution to those who had been wronged, et cetera. It was a dark speech even for Trump. But keep in mind, the audience was a Trump-packed audience. This was the CPAC meeting, which in the United States now is almost exclusively Trump. I think Nikki Haley was there. Mike Pompeo may have been there briefly. But this was a Trump event, so he's speaking to his very closest advisors. That being said, to your point, it has not gone over well more broadly. As I commented, I think, to the New York Times today, he gained not a single voter in the room because they were all voting for him, and lost another 2 or 3 points amongst white suburban women voters in Iowa because it was so dismal and so negative. So I'm not sure if that's where his campaign is going to be going in 2024, but it certainly gets off to an ominous start.
Yeah, he had a crack at the Republican Party as well, to the delight of the crowd. They seem to have liked it. He also went back to vintage Trump, talking about the minutiae, the reports, and attacking the reports that some of the seats were empty.
The seats were empty. In fact, the word on the street here in Washington is that it was roughly 1/3 full. Again, this used to be a collection of Republicans, conservatives, probably the single largest gathering in the country. In fact, it's gone international. There was a CPAC in Australia last year, which was very broadly attended. This has turned into a Trump event, so many of the non-Trump Republicans stayed away, and the attendance was down dramatically. Of course, the chairman of CPAC here is also involved in a very scandalous allegations in a lawsuit and so forth, so that probably deterred turnout as well. But all things considered, this was not a very positive kickoff to the campaign for the former president.
Yeah, that said, does it matter? Is he still likely to win the primary?
Yeah, I think, the fact that he got 63% of the vote in the straw poll at the end surprised me, because it should be higher amongst that group. But it probably is still indicative of where he is, which is he is the leading Republican candidate. And the more people who get in the race, the more likely he is to win. Nikki Haley was there. Nikki Haley didn't attack him very much. It's now being discussed openly in Washington that Nikki Haley is lobbying for the vice president slot on the 2024 ticket with Trump. One of the reasons she did not attack him, and one of the reasons she showed up. But generally speaking, most Republicans stayed away from this event.
Yeah, DeSantis hasn't declared yet. You say the more people that enter the race, he has a better chance. So you're saying DeSantis still, while he's wildly popular in Florida, might not take the shine off Trump elsewhere?
DeSantis is going to have a difficult time separating himself from the rest of the field. Keep in mind, Nikki Haley doesn't take votes away from Ron DeSantis. From Donald Trump. She takes votes away from Ron DeSantis. So DeSantis is going to have, and anybody will have to have a difficulty explaining why, amongst all of the non-Trump candidates, they are the best. When Mike Pompeo declares, he'll end up with that non-Trump vote. When Mike Pence declares, he'll end up with another smaller piece of that non-Trump vote. We've yet to see the candidate who can actually steal votes from Donald Trump, at least as far as that 35 to 40% of his solid core base is concerned.
Look, he says he is. That's Joe Biden going to run and seek a second term at the election. Is he going to? And he's using the budget this week to try and launch that?
Yeah, the pendulum swings back and forth, as you and I talk about almost every week in American politics when it comes to Joe Biden. Right now, the pendulum is sort of swinging against him again. His wife gave an interview when she wasn't exactly 100% positive when she got asked if he was going to run. She said that if he chooses to, we'll support him. If he chooses not to, we'll support him. A couple weeks ago, she said he absolutely is going to run. So the pendulum goes back and forth on the current president. He will use the budget this week for a variety of reasons. We wrote the budget for Donald Trump for a variety of reasons, one of which was to get a lot of really good television coverage. And my guess is they'll continue to feel their way through to the summertime when it's time to make a decision one way or the other. He's only got a couple months left to be definitive in his answer. Yeah,
absolutely. But when it comes down to spending, cost of living, what's going on in Congress, we are headed for another stalemate there because the GOP is refusing to raise the debt ceiling without spending cuts.
Yeah, they are. I think they're going to work that out. They always do. I've been involved in several spending cut fights in the White House and in Congress. We had a government shutdown over some spending cuts. We had a near default on the debt back in the 2000s or 2010s because of a debt ceiling fight. But they always get worked out, and they will. There's not much concern in the markets here. You're not seeing the Dow Jones go crazy because of it. Everybody's seen this act before. The expectations are that the debt ceiling will be raised. There'll be a small sort of agreement that kicks the can down the road, but that we simply sort of move on towards $32 trillion in debt, which is the next big number we'll be reaching.
Yeah, OK. Well, Mick Mulvaney, we'll leave it there. But as you mentioned, we'll talk about that next week as well, no doubt. Thanks so much.